Hi, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 1, Constructing, Measuring, and Using Geometric Notation, Lesson 13. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to construct triangles using side, 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 so SSS. So, this lesson, you're going to see all three of them. So, side, 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 side angle side, which is SAS, and angle side angle, which is ASA. So it's a very important lesson. Pay attention so you have sufficient practice. Make sure you have your protractor, your compass, your ruler, your pencil, your rubber, okay? So that if you make mistake, you can rub things off and then practice again. Before we start, I would like to remind you that it's important that you do us a huge favor by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and clicking on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you'll be notified. By doing that, you help us grow our mission of providing a platform where children around the world can have high quality maths education, regardless of their economic circumstance. Thank you. Before we start, I would like you to pause the video and answer the retrieval practice questions in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the retrieval practice questions, here are the answers. So for the first one, you were asked to write the length in millimeters. So I'm sure you know that 10 millimeter is equivalent to 1 centimeter. So by doing that, converting from centimeter to millimeter, you're going to be multiplying by 10 each time. So that should be the answers. Next, we were asked to complete the inequality for the length represented by x on the triangle. The diagram is not drawn accurately. Well, if you think about it, x will have to be greater than 4. Otherwise, we won't be able to form the vertex. All right, you can see here that this is 8 and it goes past half the line, half of 12, it goes way past that. So it's going to have to be greater than 4. Otherwise, the line for this will not be able to meet with that other line to form the vertex here. And it has to be less than 20. Otherwise, you won't be able to form the vertex as well. Let's do some new learning. If I ask you to construct these triangles, do you know how you would approach them? Well, first, you need to know that this is a triangle that has two sides and an angle between them. Two sides and an angle between them. So we call these types of triangles side, angle, side, SAS. Here you can see that this triangle has an angle, a side, and an angle. So it has side between two angles. So we call this angle, side, angle, ASA. Then we have this, which you have learnt about in our previous lesson, side, 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 all three sides. Okay, here is the first example. If you want to construct the side angle side triangle, here is the first step. Step 1, you take a ruler and you draw a 10 centimeter length. Next, you take your protractor and you measure an angle of 37 degrees. So remember the steps for using the protractor. Make sure the protractor crosshairs is at the point where you want to draw the angle. And at this point, we want to draw the angle at the left end of the line. of the 10 centimeter line segment. Next, remember that you have lined the zero mark with the line. So you're using the inside scale. So we're going to use the inside scale to mark 37 degrees. Next, you take a ruler and you draw a 4 centimeter line segment from the left end of the line, as you can see here. Next, you simply use a ruler and a pencil to close the triangle. And don't forget to label both the angles and the sides in the triangle. It's now time for you to pause the video and have some practice of what you've learned. So here, question 1, you were asked to make accurate drawings of the triangles and discuss your method with a partner or somebody you're working with. Which side did you draw first? Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this real quick. So this is a 4 centimeter by 6 centimeter triangle with 65 degrees in between them. So this is a side angle side triangle. So I'm going to move in between screens. So I'm going to switch over and share my screen. I think I'm going to have to share the entire desktop. So let's go head over to MathsPad, okay? So what we're doing here is make sure you do exactly the same thing. So this is what we're doing. We want to construct this triangle, 4 centimeter. This will be 6 centimeter. And this will be 65 degrees, just to make sure I don't forget. So step 1, you take your ruler, move your ruler, make sure, okay? So make sure you're doing this on paper so that you can really get the opportunity to practice this really well. Okay. All right. So we want a 6 centimeter line. So we want 6 centimeter. Next, we'll take your protractor. So make sure you take your protractor and now you want to measure 65 centimeter. So note that you want the 65 centimeter to be on this side. So notice how the crosshair of my protractor is at the end of the line. Okay. Now, and notice that the inside scale of my protractor is lined up with the line segment. So I want 65 degrees. So 65 degrees is about here. So I'll mark my 65 degrees here. Okay. Next, you take a ruler. Okay. And make sure you take your ruler, you line your ruler up from the end of your line. Okay. From the end of your line, make sure it is lined up with the point where you have, okay, where you have marked your 65 degree. Okay, so I'm going to have to move that a little bit. All right, now I want to draw 4 centimeter, and you can see that even though I have not put the ruler at 0 degrees, I will still be able to draw 4 centimeter that lines up well with that point. So from 4 to 8 is obviously 4 centimeters. So I'll do that now. So all right. So I'm going to stop at 8 because I need just 4 centimeter. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to use a line segment or just use a ruler to close the triangle. And so there you have it. You have completed your triangle. So next thing, make sure you label things. You label the sides and the angles. So that's 4 centimeter and that's 6 centimeter. So this is what you should get if you have done yours properly. Okay, let's head back to the next question. So in order not to, I don't want the video to be too long. I'm going to demonstrate some of them, and some of them I'll just discuss them. So this one, you're required to construct, this triangle. You want 100 degrees. So the process is the same. So you can, you don't have to have this orientation that you have here. Okay, your orientation can be different. You don't have to have that orientation. So let's head back and do a quick demonstration of this one. So we want to draw 4 centimeter by 35 millimeter and 100 degrees. But before I head back, we're going to have to convert 35 millimeter to centimeter. We have to use the same units. So this is centimeter and this is millimeter. Now, if we convert this to centimeter, we'll have to divide by 10. So 35 millimeter becomes 3.5 centimeter. So we want to construct this triangle that is 4 centimeter by 3.5 centimeter and 100 degrees in between them. Okay, so let's head back. So we're going to clear this. So we want 4 centimeter. So let's write it here so we don't forget. 100 degrees, 4 centimeter, and by 3.5 centimeter. So this, you should be doing this on paper. Now, first thing is we'll take a ruler and we can maintain the same orientation, but we don't really have to. So let's move this. So first, let's draw a 4 centimeter line. So remember the 100 degrees is going to be, so this is a side angle side, yeah? So let's draw a 4 centimeter line real quick. So 4 centimeter. And remember, the orientation doesn't really, it's not really an issue. So we want 100 degrees, on the 4 centimeter. If you look at it, if you were to flip this over upside down, it means the 4 centimeter, the angle should be at this end. Okay. So it can be on any end. It doesn't really matter. So you move your protractor, you put it in place. You can see that it is lined up with, the end of the line. You want 100 degrees. So you can mark 100 degrees. You see that you're using the outside scale. So 100 degrees, if you're using the outside scale, you see that it's lined up with the outside scale. So 100 degrees will be somewhere here. Okay, you can see it on the scale. All right, let's move that out of the way. And now we want 3.5 centimeter from that end of the line. So we'll take our ruler, we move it and make sure it lines up. right, we move our ruler and make sure it lines up with that end of the line. Okay, should line up with the mark where you've marked your angle and the end of the line, just about there, right? So we want to measure 3.5 centimeter. Now, I haven't been able to place it at exactly 0, but I know that if I add 3.5 to 7, I'm going to be at 10.5. So I want to mark 10.5, and 10.5 is about here. So I'll take my ruler, my pencil, and just draw. So I need to stop at 10.5, which is about here. About here. Okay. That's not moving. Let's see. Let's do that. 10.5. It's not working. Just a minute. All right. There's a problem here. Just a minute. We'll get that right. Okay. Okay. So that should be there. Okay. And then we move that out of the way. Let's make sure then we take a line segment and use it to connect that point to that point. So at this stage, we can now put our label. So that's 4 centimeter. Okay, 4 centimeter. That's 3.5. 3.5. I'm having to use my mouse. My pen seemed to be malfunctioning. So that's 100 degrees. Okay. All right. So we're going to head back to our main screen. Just a minute. All right. All right, so let's head back to our lesson slide. Okay, now the next thing we're going to look at is, so if you had done this correctly, like you saw in our screen, that is what you would get. Okay. Um, Next, question 2, you were asked by drawing the triangle accurately. So this is for question 1, which you did. So question 2, you were asked by drawing the triangle accurately, find the length of the side marked A. So if you use the same construction method that we use, so for this one, let's look at the answer. So for this one, you you construct the triangle, and when you finish, if you measure A, you'll find that it's 4.8 centimeter. So for this one, we have an angle, side angle. You can see we have an angle, we have a side between the two angles. Now to construct a triangle like this, we'll simply first draw 10 centimeter line using our ruler. We use our protractor to measure 53 degrees on the left-hand side and we mark it. We'll take a ruler and draw the line as long as we can, but not so much. We draw the line from the left end of the 10 centimeter line to pass through the 53-degree angle point we marked. Next, we place our protractor on the right-hand side of the line and measure 37 degrees. Of course, you would see that is 37 degrees, and then we'll draw the line to meet with the other line. Now, the vertex of this triangle is the point where those two lines meet. So you draw the triangle, and then you mark the angles in. You write the angles in. Now, I want to advise that you leave this construction line. Do not rub it off, because that is what your examiner is looking for when they mark your work. All right, it's now time for you to pause the video and answer question 3 in 3 minutes. You should be able to do it in 3 minutes. So let's head over to, let's make a change and go to our construction board. So we want to draw a triangle. Just a minute. We want to draw a triangle that is has angles 35 degrees and 40 degrees on the right, and then 7 centimeters between them. So all right, so let's head over. Okay, so to construct our triangle, so let's clear the screen. So we have 7 centimeters. So we'll draw a 7 centimeter line. So real quick, don't want the video to be too long. So let's bring it down. So we'll draw 7 centimeter line, okay? And we have on one end 35 degrees and on the other end 40 degrees. Okay, so 35 degrees. Okay, and it doesn't really matter which side the angles. But let's just replicate exactly what the question was. Okay, so 35 degrees on this side. So we measure 35 degrees. We're using the inside scale. So 35 degrees is about here. So we mark it. And then let's move that out of the way. Just make sure it's horizontal. We'll use it again. We'll take our ruler. About that point there. And we draw a line as long as we can. Okay. So we draw, keep the line going. And then we measure 40 degrees on this side. So We make sure the line lines up, the zero mark lines up with, make sure it lines up with our line when you're doing this on paper. Then we want to measure 40 degrees. So we're using the outside scale. So we measure 40 degrees. We mark our 40-degree point. We take our ruler. Okay. And we join the end of the line with the 40-degree mark that we've made. So we take our pencil and we join them. We draw the line as long as we can. Let's do that again. In fact, we can do it with a line segment. Okay. Next, we label the sides. So this is 40 degrees. So let's see whether our pen will work. So this is 40 degrees. Still not working. Okay. Stick with our, what we know works. So that's 35 degrees we drew there. That's 40 degrees. Okay. And this is 7 centimeters. Okay. So that is how you would do an angle side angle construction using your equipment. Okay. So let's head over to our slide. I don't want the video to be too long, so I'm going to have to move on. So for this one, I'll just describe what you would do. You would measure, make sure you can either keep this as millimeter if you have a millimeter ruler. Otherwise, you can change it to centimeter. So this will be 5.6 centimeter. And then next, you would draw 115 degrees on the left-hand side of the line. Draw the line as long as you can. Next, you will you will measure a 20-degree angle on the right-hand side of the line and draw the line as long as you can until it meets this other line. Leave your construction lines in. Okay? All right, for question 4, you are asked which triangle has the greater perimeter? Now, looking at the triangles, you're going to, after you've done your construction, you're going to have to measure the sides to see which one has the greatest perimeter. For question 5, you were asked to use the information to construct triangles PQR. Now, to do this construction, I'm just going to discuss it. I'm not going to demonstrate it. To do this construction, all you have to do, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to first draw PQ. So PQ, you label the line PQ. And then the Q is telling you where the middle letter, remember, the middle letter tells you where the angle should be. So PQR, so Q should be 70 degrees, should be measured on this side. Next, you measure QR, so PQR, you make sure that this line that you're going to draw is 3.2 centimeter. Okay, this should be 3.2 centimeter. All right. Once you have that line, you have all the information you need. All you need to do is to just close the triangle. Leave the construction line in. Next, you were asked to measure the length of PR. So remember, this is R. Okay, this is the vertex here is R. QR is 3.2. So PR, you measure that and you round your answer to 1 decimal place. So obviously your ruler only goes to 1 decimal place, so you don't even need to round. You just measure and you write your answer in. If you do that, you'll find out your answer is 7.3 centimeter. Let's look at another part of our learning. Which of these triangles would be impossible to draw? Well, if you demonstrate this and you practice this on paper, you would notice that this triangle is impossible to draw. Well, let's check it. If you draw PQ, which is 10 centimeter, and you mark it, you write PQ. If you want to do the angle RPQ, we know that the middle letter tells us where the angle will be. So we're drawing 100 degrees on this side of the line, which will look like this. We mark 100 and we draw a line. Okay. Now, notice that this 100 is not correct because we were using the inside scale. So that is the correct mark that you see there right now. You draw your line. Next, you measure. Remember, PQR is set to be 100 degrees. So the angle 100 degrees should be measured on this side of the line. Now, notice that we're using the outside scale, so 100 degrees should be marked there. Now, notice the lines never meet, so we cannot form a triangle. All right, pause the video and answer questions 6 and 7 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 6 and 7, here are the answers. So here, question 6, you were asked to describe 3 different ways to construct an equilateral triangle with a perimeter of 180 millimeter. You can construct triangles with perimeter of 100 millimeter in different ways. What are the 3 ways we've looked at? Side, 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 angle, and angle, side, angle. So you could have side, side, side. So the 3 side lengths would be 6 centimeter each or 60 millimeter each. You could also use side, angle, side. So you will have one side to be 6 centimeter. The angle on that side should be 60 degrees. And then you have another 6 centimeter line. You could also use angle, side, angle. So you have 60 degrees on one side. You'll have 6 centimeter between them and the other angle of 60 degrees. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. So construction is something that you learn. Constructing side, 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 and angle, side, angle requires practice. You need to get your protractor, your pair of compass, your ruler, your pencil, your rubber, and practice. That is how you get better. All right. Well done for sticking around and for taking your learning seriously. Until next time, take really good care of yourself and bye-bye.